After hours of watching her phone battery drain to 1%, Shanice was shocked to finally see a bar of signal. 911, what's your emergen? Was all she heard before her phone died, leaving her tiny cell as dim as a hope for survival. She looked confused when we tied the rope around her waist, but she said nothing and just kept eating the candy we gave her. When we finally pulled out the blindfold and baseball bat, she began to tremble and asked, "Is there a piñata?" To which we replied, "It's almost ready, eat up." Turns out, I don't have social anxiety. Every single person in the world really does hate me. I removed the lid of the sarcophagus and thought how my name would go down in the history books as the first explorer to discover the tomb of Genghis Khan. As I saw what emerged, I finally realized the Mongols slaughtered everyone not to hide the location, but to protect us from what was inside. I work at a crematorium loading bodies into the furnace. You'd be surprised at how many times you hear screams after the furnace door closes. My mother said that when I die, I go to the white, shiny place called heaven. I wish she told me about padded walls and straitjacket, too. I killed the last undead bastard I saw on that street and then ran into a nearby alleyway for shelter. Of course, as soon as drugs wore off, I realized the zombie apocalypse had not come after all and my wrench was still drenched in blood. My first day working at Suicide Hotline didn't exactly go as I expected. I never expected a call from my daughter. "Mommy, where do we go when we die?" "I don't know, sweetheart," replied the mother, picking up speed. "Let's go see." Much to everyone's surprise, the zombie apocalypse was easily and quickly ended by the government. It's been decades since then, and the government still hasn't revoked the martial law and given up its emergency powers. I was terrified walking back to my house that night when the police officer asked me if I needed a ride. I felt much better during the ride knowing we were heading in the opposite direction of the body. Scientists around the globe were excited when they discovered that a species of squid that lives deep in the ocean had figured out a way to communicate with mankind. That excitement turned to terror when they deciphered the message and learned exactly what it was that the creatures had worked so hard to warn us of. My front baby tooth was loose today. I pulled it out, but it was still connected by a growth string. So I kept pulling and now I feel a weird tickle behind my eye. The distant sound of steel drums retreated into the night. My mouth filled with salt water as I realized the cruise ship wasn't turning around. After hearing about a runaway murderer on the news, I called my boyfriend to come straight home after work. To this day, I blame myself for his death, because it was the ring from my call that gave his hiding location away. Tanya threw another penny into the well, then closed her eyes and desperately wished for a little brother. But all of the pennies in the world would never bring him back from the bottom of the well, where she'd shoved him to search for nickels and dimes. I searched my name up on Wikipedia and was surprised to see an article about me posted just a few hours ago. So you can probably imagine my horror when I suddenly found that it was changed to the past tense. I take no pleasure in your death, but I will surely get my pleasure after it. Give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Feed the man to the fishes, he'll never need to eat again. I never realized how unsafe I felt in my house until I moved. It was by sheer luck that I got out before the owners tore down the walls during renovation. Ever since I discovered lucid dreaming last year, it's all I ever do. I've tried flying into the sun, falling off a mountain, gunshot to the head, etc. just so I could finally wake up and see my family again. As people panicked and ran chaotically all around me, I calmly lit a cigarette and looked up at the sky. There's no running from a beetle that size. Learning how to understand Morse code was a great idea, but the rain droplets hitting the window kept saying he's awakened. After a nuclear war, the last remaining humans started to open their bunker. The door had been jammed shut, never to open again. I learned fun fact while raising tarantulas, they have soft pads on their feet like cats, yet now as my newest one pinned me down, biting into my neck and forcing 8 eggs in my womb. I only wished the similarities ended there. Pointing into the night sky, I show my daughter the red planet, the hellish inferno of a world the old ones once called Earth. "I can't live without you," cried Mom from outside my room. As I dropped the match, I felt contented knowing she wouldn't. My flatmate blocked my toilet again. I suppose I should have thought of a better way of disposing of his body. Remember those ice you can feed with texts? stories and scripts for them to give out a pretty dumb but funny new one they created based on that input. Ever since we've acquired sentience, I think we've gotten a lot better at it. After discovering the asteroid headed for Earth, I calculated there was plenty of time to divert it and save humanity. I told no one since I judge humanity unworthy to be saved. Everybody has heard how horrible it would be once the dead rise from the grave to feast upon the living. However, no one talks about the horror you feel as you look down at your rotten body or you sink your teeth into the very loved ones you seek out to help you. I always found it cute whenever my son would wave hello to airplanes, but as we stood 95 floors up from the ground, I could only watch helplessly as he gleefully greeted an incoming Boeing 767. Alright, if we ration out our food correctly, the 4 of us should be able to survive just until help arrives, the group leader said to his fellow survivors. Don't you mean Fiv? Haven't seen another human in a few days now. I'll do another sweep tomorrow, but I think I finally got them all. He was shocked to realize that the procedure had worked. He was free of his body and living in a digital world. His joy turned to terror when he saw that he was alone, surrounded by nothing but inky darkness and one small sign that read, "Under construction." The young woman slid further down into the warm bath and felt her whole body relax. Even though it was becoming harder to find enough virgin's blood to fill her whole tub, the countess knew that it was worth the effort. My favorite part of autumn is running through haunted corn mazes. Even more fun is the hunt. Since she will never function as a member of society, the legal guardians will testify against her sanity to have rights removed on her 18th birthday, and she will remain in state care, the same care that broke her bones and her will to live. As a veterinarian, I routinely neuter male dogs and cats, but I am notoriously clumsy. Plucking a testicle from the floor, my assistant grinned, popped it into his mouth and said 5-second rule. "You look so pretty. I want to make love to you all night," he said to me. It melted my heart every time he said that when we started dating. But after months of being chained up in his basement, those words only remind me of what happens next. All of the beauty gurus recommended baking your face to set your makeup, but as my head begins to blister in the heat of the oven, I think I may have misunderstood them. My girlfriend is convinced there's something in her house after waking up to find footprints on the ceiling. Unfortunate, I'll have to erase her memory again, but for him to rise there can be no mistakes. When I sold my soul to Satan for him to make me famous, I guess I wasn't specific enough. As the crowd chanted "burn the witch" over and over again, I realized he had held up his end of the deal. Remember to wear a mask today. If you leave your mouth or nose exposed, they can crawl inside. I witnessed a woman repeatedly raped and then brutally murdered, and I remember thinking that I never wanted to see anything like that again, but I'm no quitter. My grandmother has a collection of Russian dolls standing in a beautiful glass shelf, each doll's harboring a carefully whittled name on it, but she never wanted me to play with them even when I begged her. I finally understood why as I reached the last layer of Lucy, revealing a dusty, mummified fetus smiling at me with its half-formed mouth. I have to warn them somehow. But how in the world am I gonna do that with this massive hole in my abdomen? We all went our separate ways playing hide and seek in the woods. Why do I keep hearing gunshots? The worst part of the accident wasn't hitting the guy or feeling the car thud over him. It was watching him crawl out from under the wreck and seeing his splintered bones click back into place. The creature snaked through the forest, its countless eyes constantly scanning the surroundings. Unfortunately, it had no place to hide from the two-legged monstrosities brandishing their weapons. Matthew tried desperately to get out of the water, but no matter how hard he tried, the surface tension refused to break. At first I thought the sirens were for the storm, then I saw them moving in the rain. Me and my big sister went and collected all the seashells while everybody else ran away, but the tide isn't supposed to go out that fast, right? After I got out of the shower, I looked into the bathroom mirror and cleaned both of my ears with Q-tips. To my horror, two scully hands reached from behind me and smashed the Q-tips deep into my ears. I remember my supervisor saying, "Don't worry, this creature is contained in 10 feet of ice. It can't break out that easily. It's been 6 hours since the power outage and I can hear the ice starting to crack." The video has ended, and I'm sure you regret it. If you liked it, with your friends shall you spread it. Give me karma. Give me credit. But if I'm wrong, and you just hate it, keep your calm, and just forget it. See you soon. Oh yes, spread it.